Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about fuel preparedness, what we do and what we store, and a little bit on how we store it, and just some things that could be fuel for thought. Anyway, so that was dumb. Anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and get this out there because I'm sort of rehashing some old topics that we've gone over before. Like I did the video on water preparedness, which I'll link to down below. And I have a lot, of course, on food preparedness, more on that than anything else. And I think I have a playlist I'll probably link to in the description box. So don't forget to click on more or show more somewhere down here below the channel screen. You click on that, opens a description box so you can find all our links therein. Keep in mind, I'm talking about liquid fuels like this. I mean, there's other types of energy storage, such as firewood, which of course we do. We have the solar power with the battery bank, and then we also have other types of batteries. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about other types of fuels such as gasoline, diesel, kerosene, clean heat, and the like. So those are the 4 liquid fuels that we store. And they have very many different uses. Now, the kerosene is probably the one we are least likely to use, but we do have a couple of drums of, I think they're 5-gallon drums of kerosene that can be used for various different things. Now, kerosene is a more natural fuel than clean heat, which is actually synthetic. However, kerosene is more likely to cause headaches and make you feel nauseous, especially if you're burning it in an area where you don't have really good ventilation. I find for things such as my oil lamps and hurricane lamps that we hang in various places around the house, that clean heat was a better option for us because the kerosene would make us headachy and nauseous when we'd burn it inside. Now, we do rotate through these things. Patrick has a collection of diesel cans. I think he bought a lot of them secondhand. In fact, most of our gas cans we've bought secondhand. In fact, I was out there looking for at least one of the 2 very cool old, actually 3 gas cans that Patrick has bought at garage sales in the past. And I don't know where he's keeping them. He must have them out at the other piece of property. But at any rate, we have all kinds of various gas cans and we do rotate through those. So that would be something that we would, at a certain time of the year, make sure that we're using those in the vehicles that take gas or diesel for our diesel cans, and get those all used up and then go fill them up again so we always have fresh supply. And then we also have a couple of fuel tanks, again, purchased secondhand through Facebook Market, that Patrick has a couple different videos on these where he's fixed them up, painted them, made them so that they're easier to transport. Those are stored at our other piece of property. Those are things that we can use to refuel our different diesel vehicles, such as our regular GMC pickup. And then we have some heavy machinery that we'd use the diesel in, such as the excavator, the backhoe, the telehandler, and a few. I think the telehandler is diesel. I'm assuming it is. And a few other things, dump truck and whatnot. So we do store that. We do cycle through those things. And that is important because gas can get old. It can develop moisture in there, especially if it's not properly stored. It can actually just become pretty much useless over time. So cycling through your fuel is very important. Now, this isn't an issue with the clean heat. And to be honest, I've looked for this on Amazon and I can still link it to it, but I don't know what the price is now. But I know the last several times I just checked the price there out of curiosity. It was way more expensive to buy on Amazon than it was in our local hardware store. So when we get the clean heat, it has gone up in price since we first started stocking up on it. But when we do buy it, we buy that in our local store because we can get the best deal on it there. So that is something you would want to check. And I do highly recommend this for anyone who's needing to run oil or oil lanterns of any kind. It says odorless, which is not entirely true. It is still going to have some odor to it, but it's not going to be as strong as the kerosene. A lot of times I don't notice it at all. I'm smelling it right now, but it could simply be because I'm standing real close to this lamp here that's burning it. But it's not bothering me. It's a very mild smell compared to kerosene. Other options, if you're very sensitive, is there's the paraffin oil that you can use in your lamps. And I know some people use things like olive oil and different other types of oils that can be more natural. Those can be a lot more expensive, which is one of the reasons I don't do that. And if you're not careful, those oils can quickly go rancid and it can smell terrible when you go to burn it. I had that happen when I was trying to use when I realized years and years ago how bad Crisco really was. And I decided, okay, I'll use it as candles. And it didn't take long for it to go rancid. Just burning the candles and the heat from the candles over time caused it to go rancid. And then it was just too stinky to burn and I had to get rid of it. So I just tossed all that stuff. But it is an option. Yes, you can use Crisco and other types of cooking oils as a fuel source, but that's just going to be a lot more expensive than having something like Clean Heat. Well, maybe not a lot. Maybe there's some of those cheap oils that you can buy at the store that a lot of people might use as cooking oil. You might be able to get a better deal using those. Just keep in mind they can go rancid and put off an even worse smell than this. Another thing that we do, and I'm going to link to the series that Patrick did. Again, another secondhand find. Some of the best deals and some of the biggest things that we have were including all of our heavy equipment. None of it was ever bought brand new. It was years of Patrick looking and shopping and trying to find the right deal, something that was manageable for us to pick up ourselves, even if it had some kind of things that needed to be repaired. That was something he knew he could do himself to save money. So just so you know, we're not rolling in dough and just go buy all this brand new stuff. We save. We do pay cash, but it's usually years of shopping and looking and waiting to have the funds to do so. One of the things, though, that Patrick did, back to the subject, is that he got a Fill-Rite fuel pump. I'll put a couple pictures here, and he has a video series on that of him buying that and then fixing that up. And he's got it attached onto our GMC pickup. And then he has a tank that he also bought secondhand and fixed that up. That is in the bed of the pickup. What he'll do is he'll keep filling the pickup with the diesel that's in the tank, the storage tank, and then he'll top off the storage tank the next time he goes to the fuel station. So it's just, especially if he has to make long trips, sometimes he does need to take the GMC rather than the more economical car because he has things that he's towing back and forth. And that works out really good because he can stop at places that have lower fuel prices and fill everything up to the top, and he can go a much farther distance and a lot of times make it past the most expensive fuel places along the way and find the least expensive. He's pretty familiar with the places where he can get the least expensive, the best price on fuel when doing that. So that works out really good. And he did also, because of his videos on the Fill-Rite, they actually did reach out to us and sent us some more parts and pieces. I think another pump to use for one of the tanks, which was really cool for them to do that. But again, that was after already buying it secondhand and fixing it up. So, these are some things to consider if you're able to make it work. But rotation is, again, going to be very important and is something that we definitely practice, and proper storage. So obviously safety in storage is going to be a big factor. So these are things you need to keep in mind on any of this stuff, because obviously it's very highly flammable. Some other things I wanted to throw out there with this in mind is learning how to make your own biodiesel. We haven't done that yet, but I know there's people that do it. And if you know of anyone, any channel out there that has some great videos on that, please share the channel name down below. If you share the link, it's going to automatically go into help for review, but I do try to check that a couple of times a day and then approve the appropriate comments that have links in them. I do that just to prevent anyone from getting links to silly nonsense or, scammers and spammers and whatnot. But at least share the channel name if you want to make sure that your comment gets seen right away. And then people can look that up and find the link. Then the other thing I really wanted to say is learning the importance of trying to figure out ways to maybe even get away from such fuels in case they're not available. Now, I don't have a problem using these fuels, but you never know what's going to happen down the road. With the price of these things constantly going up, I think it's good to, as much as possible, find ways to do things that don't require fuel. Now, we do have gas and diesel generators that become our backups to our solar and our public power, but the use of those is very, very limited. Maybe once a year, it's actually a good idea to start them up at least once a year to make sure they're running good. But maybe once a year, they might get used for a few hours. And so that's another reason why keeping gas on hand, storage on hand is important also for that. But it is wise to start looking at other methods and ways that you can do things that do not require fuel or even electricity to run. So something I try to put out there in this day and age, it can be difficult to find such things, but learning how to do things by hand. Something I haven't thought to mention in a long time is those old-fashioned push mowers. I realize they're a lot more work, but you either turn your whole yard into a garden so you don't have grass to worry about mowing, or consider getting one of those. I would still like to have one, even though we keep expanding our gardens and we end up with less and less lawn. We do have a lot of grass still over at the other piece of property, which we do like to mow and bring back over here and put on our garden areas. But these are just a few ideas. I bring a lot of this up, like the sewing machine that I have back here. That is a treadle machine I've had for, I think, at least 10 years now. I have the grain mill that I've had for probably about 8 years. It is hand cranked. That's how it was purchased. That's how I used it for the first couple years. And then Patrick bought an old secondhand motor that he fixed up, and then he's got it hooked up to run that grain mill to save me time. But if I really need to fall back on it, I can still grind my grains by hand. It just takes about 10 times longer to grind it by hand. But at any rate, so I can always fall back on that. I have a lot of hand crank type utensils I can use for such occasions, so I don't have to depend on fuel. I don't have to depend on even the solar power or electricity if it really comes down to it. So I always like to throw that out there, because sometimes we just need to go back and learn the old-fashioned way of doing things and look secondhand. I talked about some of this in the video I did on why I purchased a lot of antique and vintage things, even though I like them. I like their aesthetics. I like the decor that they add to the house. But I also look for things like this, garage sale find, that are going to be usable in grid down situations. My ringer for my off-grid laundry setup, and the agitator that I use in that, and a hand crank coffee mills, and so much more. So don't forget those options too, and try to find ways to kind of reduce your dependency on fuels. So if they're not available, you have other ways to do things. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Please share any more thoughts, ideas in the comments down below so people can get some more ideas from you. What are your favorite fuels to store? How do you store them? How do you use them? And what are some other options that you are looking into or do, so that you don't have to depend so heavily on fuels. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out the links I'll be putting in the description box down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.